Hey everybody, Spokane Steve here, trying a different tripod. A little high. Let's check in with it. See how that is. Bear with me. Okay, I thought I would update you guys on the stats project here. I've completed the project score sheet, so all the stats for 1966 are up to date. 121 games. So let's take a little look at that here now. Sorry, bear with me while I try to get this lined up. This is something you can come back to at a later time and look at some of the numbers. I thought it might be fun to spend a little time on this. I was going to do it during the replay today's game. And I thought, well, I could end up spending a lot of time on this. Better off to make it a separate video. So here we go. We've got, let me get my glasses on. We have 56 games in the American League, 65 in the National. Let's look at the American League first. Minnesota and Baltimore tied at 8-2. Cleveland just a half game back at 7-2. Really, we could make that larger. Let's see how that looks. I don't know if you can read that or not. Probably better to get it in a little tighter, huh? And we could come even a little tighter. Let's get right in there for a close-up. There we go. That's somewhat readable. Detroit 7-6, 2.5 back. Washington 3. Chicago and Kansas City 4. California 4.5. Boston 5. New York 6.5 in the NL. And of course, you guys have seen the stats before, but the standings, I mean. Dodgers at 12-3 have a 2-game lead on Philadelphia and the Pirates. The Giants 3 back. Astros 4, Braves and Cardinals and Reds 6. Mets 7.5, Cubs 2-10, 8.5 out. Let's look at some of the league leaders. So far, Dick Allen is dominating both leagues. 442. We'll touch base on Allen a little later. Glenn Beckert, 434. We've got some real aberrant performances here, obviously, in a small sample size. Rico Cardi 412, Bailey 388, Parker 382, Mazeroski 382, Callison, Stargell, Hart, Wills, Mays, Charlie Smith, the last one listed, and he's batting 358. Wes Parker leads in runs scored at 17, Joe Morgan 15, Allen and Stargell 13, then you have Wynn, Wills, Mays, McCovey, Alou, Lou Johnson, Clemente, and Jim Ray Hart. The last four tied with 11. Lou Johnson leads in doubles with 8, Felipe Alou and Wes Parker with 7, Bob Bailey with 6. Felipe Alou and Tom Haller have 3 triples apiece. Home run leaders, which I was tracking before, Willie Mays, the major league lead with 7, Stargell and McCovey with 6, Aaron Wynn, Dick Allen, and Jim Ray Hart with 5. Allen and Bill White and Willie Mays tied for the RBI lead with 15. Those, of course, both the 2 stats I was keeping track of. Joe Morgan has 15 walks to lead the way. So you can glance at that for a second. Apparently I need to be over to the right a little bit more. Let's go ahead and center that up. Still a bit off. Okay, we need to be over this way more. I moved it the wrong way. There we go. That's better. We could probably even zoom in on that a little bit. Let me see if I can do that here. There we go. That's nice. Strikeouts. Intentional walks. No one has more than 1. Jimmy Wynn with 19 strikeouts. Aspromani with 18. Gentile with 15. 3 Houston Astros have struck out the most. Interesting. Jim Ray Hart, we covered that the other day. 3 hit by pitches. Leads the league. Stolen base leaders. Maury Wills with 6, Lou Brock with 5, Willie Davis 4, Adolfo Phillips, who didn't even play much until he was traded from the Phillies to the Cubs, has 3. Here's the stat I like, is runs created per 27 outs. And for those of you not familiar with that stat, it basically means that if a lineup, for instance, Dick Allen has an astronomical 16.2. What that means is a lineup full of Dick Allens, batting 1 through 9. 9 Dick Allens in a lineup, that team would average 16.2 runs per game. Normally an 8.8 would lead the league or be close to it. So we have some very high numbers here in a small sample size. Stargell and Parker 13.2, Cardi, Beckert, Hart, Bob Bailey, Willie Mays 10.8, Jimmy Wynn, Johnny Callison, and Willie McCovey, Dennis Menke. Runs created per 27 outs is a very good all-around measure of a player's offensive ability, as it pretty much takes everything into account. On base percentage, Dick Allen at 500. I don't believe much in total average. It's basically bases divided by opportunity. But what it does is it makes an out equivalent to a single, which of course it is not. It is for the purpose of getting on base. But a walk can only advance a runner when it forces the runner, whereas a single can move base runners, even drive in runs. A walk can only drive in a run with the bases loaded, of course. Willie Mays leading with 46 total bases. Felipe Alou, 43. Dick Allen, 39. The lefty-righty things don't impress me much. As I mentioned before, we won't have X chances. There's no way to enter that. ERA, Tommy Sisk, who goes today for the Pirates, leads the league with a 1.26 ERA. Bob Veal, Bill Latman, Sandy Koufax, Ernie Brolio, Don Sutton, Larry Jaster, Bob Gibson, 2.16, Jim Bunning, Gaylord Perry. Boy, Perry's would have been lower if he'd have held on to that shutout. But that's baseball. Juan Marichal and Chris Short round out the leaders. Games pitched, games started, complete games. Koufax leading with 3. Games finished, Claude Raymond, Al Jackson leading with 5. Saves, Roy Face with 4. Raymond, Regan, and Lindsay with 2. Oh, I should mention that Strat-O-Matic, of course, the Windows program is keeping its own record and assigning saves. I can't control that. So basically what they're using is the 1969 and on save rules, which were grandfathered back to the earlier season. So it's not exactly accurate to what the save rule actually was in 1966, but I'm going to go with it. We'll say whatever Strat-O-Matic calls a save, we're going to call it a save. Shutouts, 5 pitchers have 1. Hits allowed, runs. Strikeouts is one of Koufax, 46 strikeouts. Second is Maloney and Sutton with 26. Koufax has almost twice as much, or twice as many, I should say, as the number 2 pitchers on the list. Bolin, Bunning, Cloninger, Veal, Marichal, Perry, etc. Wild pitches. We're not using the Bach wild pitch part of the super advanced, so we shouldn't have too many of those. Opponent steals, I don't care much about. Pitchers' batting average. A lot of pitchers are hitting, which I'd mentioned pitchers hitting yesterday, and this seems to bear that out. You've got hits per 9, walks per 9, Ks per 9, homers per 9. Opponent's batting average, then it breaks that down to lefty-righty. You guys can let me know what you want to see. Run support, that's always very telling. Strikeouts to walks, a great indicator of future performance. Doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot for a replay. Let's go over to the American League. We'll do the same thing. Here we have league leaders. Rocky Colavito leading and batting at 444. Jackie Warner, 441. And you have Dave Johnson and Frank Robinson, Baltimore teammates, at 395. Tartable of Kansas City's hitting 395. Kaline, Frank Howard, Bleffery, Killebrew, Jimmy Hall. Surprisingly, John Romano's batting 342. Al Kaline leading in runs scored with 13. Bleffery, Powell, and Warner next in line. Kaline leads in hits. Smith, Horton, and Roy White with 5 doubles tied for the lead. Jim Fregosi has 3 triples. Your home run leaders are Powell, Jackie Warner, and Colavito, and Mincher with 5 apiece. Reichart, Horton, Tresh, and Fred Valentine with 4. Kaline still leading in ribbies with 12. Canigliaro 11. Blair, Colavito, McAuliffe, and Horton with 10. Look at McAuliffe's walks. He's walked 16 times, greatly outdistancing Cash and Locke, tied for second with 9. That will reflect in McAuliffe's on-base percentage, of course. Boog Powell, the only player with 2 intentional walks. Fred Valentine's been hit by the pitch 4 times. Tom Tresh leads by a wide margin in strikeouts with 17. And welcome Franklin Long. Yeah, I would have dragged this out way too long to do it before the game. Chance has 4 sacrifice hits. Stolen bases, Reichart, Buford, Tartable, Oliva, and Fred Valentine all have 3. So more stealing going on in the National League, and that's not all that surprising. Brooks and Frank Robinson both have active 10-game hitting streaks. Colavito leading in slugging, followed by Jackie Warner, both over 900. The Boog, Mincher, Bleffery, Jimmy Hall round out the top 5. McAuliffe, with his 16 walks, has a .491 on-base percentage, followed by Colavito, Kaline, Killebrew, Warner, Frank Robinson, Frank Howard. Look at these on-bases. Even Fred Valentine leading off for the Senators. .440 on base. Bleffery, Tartable, Davey Johnson, and Jimmy Hall. And runs created, wow, Colavito's ahead of Dick Allen now. He's 19.5, and Jackie Warner 18.1. Holy crap. Allen was leading. I looked on these periodically as I was entering the games. After Warner, you've got Powell, Kaline, Bleffery, Jimmy Hall, Dick McAuliffe, Roy White, Jose Tartable, Fred Valentine, Frank Robinson, and Harmon Killebrew. Total bases, Colavito narrowly ahead of Horton by 1, Boog Powell 3rd, Jackie Warner 4th, Bleffery, Kaline, and Mincher with 30 total bases. Again, skipping over the lefty right. Ron Hansen leads in errors with 6, the White Sox shortstop. In wins, Sam McDowell leads with 3. Many others have 2. Stottlemyre and Rickert are your only 3-game losers. ERA, Hank Aguirre, big surprise there, 1.29. Dave Boswell, Fred Talbot, McDowell, Sonny Siebert, Jim McLaughlin, another surprise. John Buzzhart, well, that last game he pitched, do you remember that one? Tiant, Marcelino Lopez, Gary Peters, Camilo Pascual, Phil Ortega round out the list. McDowell leads in innings pitched. Hal Reniff in games pitched with 7. Many others have 6. Barber, McDowell, and Catfish Hunter 2 complete games. Games finished, Locker, Fisher, McMahon, Larry Sherry, Jack Acker, and Steve Hamilton have 4. Larry Sherry leads in saves with 3. McMahon and Dick Lyons with 2. Many pitchers have 1 shutout. Strikeouts, it's McDowell by a mile, 33. Next best is Steve Barber, 24. Pete Rickert, 20. Jim Palmer, Earl Wilson, 19. And so on. Run support, McNally, McDowell, Lolich, McLean, Barber. I expected to see more Oriole pitchers on this list. And strikeout to walk ratio caught with an amazing 7-1. So you guys let me know which stats you want to see updated on a more frequent basis. We could look at, let's look at some team stats. Team stats, grand totals display. Detroit, not surprisingly, leads in runs scored with 71. Second is Baltimore with 63, and those probably are your top 2 offenses. I kind of expected Boston would score a little bit more. They've scored 51. Kansas City and the White Sox are at the bottom, 35 and 37 respectively. In team run average, Cleveland leading the White Sox. Twins in 3rd, Angels surprisingly in 4th. Washington, Kansas City, middle of the pack. And pitching has been the undoing of both the Yankees and the Red Sox. Let's check the same figures in the National League. League stats. first grand totals. The Atlanta Braves lead in runs scored. Again, that should surprise no one when you look at that lineup. Houston is kind of surprising at 71. They're in second place. And Pittsburgh, not at all surprising at 70. Pittsburgh batting .304 as a team with that lineup. The Phillies also very impressive. .295 team average. 67 runs scored. Cincinnati and New York especially, they've only scored 27 runs. Dodgers, Giants, middle of the pack. Pittsburgh, 2.38 team ERA. Los Angeles, 2.51. Then it drops to San Francisco, 3.56. Houston and Philadelphia, middle of the pack. And pitching has been the undoing for the Mets and the Reds, and to a large degree the Cardinals. And to me, that's surprising. The Cardinals with a 5.26 team earned run average. And definitely, Franklin, the Triple Crown race. Well, let's go back to the American League for a second. We'll see. I'm interested where Frank Robinson sits. 395, so he's right there in batting. But he hasn't hit many home runs yet. He's not listed. He has 9 RBIs, so he trails K-Line by 12. Wonder how many home runs Frank Robinson has, so we can easily find out. He has hit 2, so he's not completely out of the race. So I'm going to wrap up the stat rundown. Let me know what you thought about this, and also leave in the comments what things you want to keep track of. I'll do my best to provide you with what you want. Join me at 1 p.m. coming up here in just about a half hour. It'll be the Pirates at the Cubs. Thanks for tuning in, guys.